In an August 2004 editorial in the Christian Sentinel, Bill Alnor wrote, "The evidence is overwhelming. Christian Research Institute, CRI, President Hank Hanegraaff has engaged in serious instances of repeat plagiarism. My investigation that was part of my study of plagiarism in the religious media also underscores what action Christians should take concerning Hanegraaff and CRI, a complete boycott." In the chapter in his doctoral dissertation on plagiarism devoted to Hank, Alnor writes, "Most of the plagiarism allegations lodged against Hanegraaff stem from 3 of his books that he wrote prior to his takeover of CRI. They were Memory Dynamics, Memory, Your Key to a Rewarding Education, and Personal Witness Training." Alnor provides a table with parallel columns demonstrating similarities between Hank's Memory, Your Key to a Rewarding Education, and Harry Lorraine and Jerry Lucas's The Memory Book, that he believes prove Hank plagiarized Lorraine and Lucas. They include the fact that both Lorraine and Lucas, and Hank, use the shape of Italy like a boot, the acronym HOMES, H-O-M-E-S, for the Great Lakes, and the acrostic, "Every good boy does fine," to remember the treble clef as an example of how association can help with memorization. He documents that both Lorraine and Lucas and Hank use the sounds of the same letters to represent different numbers, such as the number 2 being represented by the letter N. Finally, Alnor points out similarities between peg words Hank and Lorraine and Lucas use to help their readers remember numbers, such as the number 1 being represented by a tie. Alnor demonstrates no understanding whatsoever of the field of mnemonics, or memory assistance, in which both Hank and Lorraine and Lucas were writing. For instance, none of the examples he cites to prove Hank plagiarized Lorraine and Lucas in the first 7 of the 9 rows in his table were created by Lorraine and Lucas, but are part of the public domain and are commonly used by teachers of mnemonics. As to the examples in the remaining 2 rows, these do not constitute plagiarism either. Every allegation of plagiarism against Hank is based on faulty assumptions. Just as the charge that Hank committed plagiarism of Lorraine and Lucas was based on faulty assumptions, so too the charge that he plagiarized Kennedy. One such unwarranted assumption is that Hank is taking Kennedy's material and passing it off as his own. Not only does Hank acknowledge his indebtedness to Kennedy in personal witness training, but the manner in which he acknowledges him implicitly but clearly acknowledges evangelism explosion. Contrary to what some believe, Hank's incorporation of evangelism explosion material into personal witness training wasn't news to Kennedy. Kennedy was the one who first asked Hank to create an inherently memorable version of evangelism explosion before deciding against it because evangelism explosion was too well established in different translations internationally to be changed. Hank also sent Kennedy prototypes of personal witness training as he was developing it. In the mid-1980s, Kennedy even had Hank teach an early version of personal witness training to his congregants at Coral Ridge Presbyterian Church. The faulty conclusion of plagiarism could have been avoided if the right questions were asked. Number 1, what kind of publication is personal witness training? Personal witness training is a training manual to help believers win souls that was never professionally published. While evangelism explosion is almost entirely written in standard paragraph form with fully developed prose, personal witness training is largely written in outline form with blanks for students to fill in at every point. It is properly a workbook. Evangelism explosion is more properly a study book. Number 2, why was personal witness training written? Personal witness training was written to make the evangelism explosion gospel presentation more user-friendly by packaging it in an inherently memorable format. This format was Hank's creation and provided a strong justification for publication. Furthermore, Hank added many additional innovations to the gospel presentation that go beyond what is found in evangelism explosion. Number 3, who was personal witness training written for? Personal witness training was created when people to whom Hank was teaching evangelism explosion one night a week and Bible memorization another night asked him to make evangelism explosion inherently memorable in a manner similar to what he had done with the Bible. Does Alnor really expect us to believe that these people thought Hank created the evangelism explosion material he was now teaching in a memorable format? Does he expect us to believe that Hank was trying to make them think that? The plagiarism allegations need to be put into context. At the time they were originally made, some people held the opinion that Hank was unqualified to take the place of Walter Martin. When Hank began to write materials such as Christianity in Crisis that would seem to contradict that view, some alleged that Hank's materials were ghostwritten. The plagiarism charge was another attempt to discredit Hank's claim to the leadership of CRI. Even when he writes, he's incapable of producing anything original. The people who cling to this ghostwriter plagiarist characterization of Hank are chasing after the distant echo of a rumor that was long ago discredited. There is absolutely no evidence that Hank uses a ghostwriter, and the allegation is laughable to anyone who works closely with Hank. Furthermore, none of the professionally published books that Hank has produced since he came into his own at CRI remotely approach even the broadest definitions of plagiarism. After 15 years of Hank daily hosting the Bible Answer Man and his creation of a truly impressive body of work, it is astounding that we still need to have this discussion about his qualifications to lead CRI.